Oh, yeah. I'd like to place an order. Because we watched Season 8, Episode 16, The Pothole. So, Katy.
Hi. Please do the voice the entire time.
Okie dokie. So, how'd you like this episode of Seinfeld?
More and more, I'm not a huge Kramer fan. And when he comes on screen, I just put my pen down and I'm like, what is this? So I have nothing really to say about Kramer's story at all.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I really like Jerry's story. This is a very good Jerry episode. It's a pretty good Elaine episode. And George is kind of... So, on balance, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, for George having, like, the title storyline...
Yeah.
Not a lot happens there.
No. Did you like it? That's a no.
I don't think so. Like, I think I agree with you. Obviously, the best storyline is the psychological torture that Jerry goes through. And that whole concept. But I'm trying to think of, like, anything, iconic or that has entered the zeitgeist from this.
Nothing.
Well, okay. So The Pothole was written by Steve O'Donnell and Dan O'Keefe. It was directed by Andy Ackerman, and it aired on February 20th, 1997. Screen Crush ranked it as the 92nd, so pretty much like smack dab in the middle. Vulture had it in the like bottom quarter at 112th. But IMDb had it as a bit of a sleeper pick, sneaking into the 47th ranking with an 8.6 out of 10.
Are the people ranking? Who are these people? Are they just like fans of hijinks? They just like to see Kramer struggling with a huge drum of paint thinner, right? Like what explains how highly they rank this? I love physical comedy,
Drugs,
but I don't like it when I can see miles ahead.
You saw Newman dying in a giant ball of fire miles ahead?
You know what? When he showed up, I was like, he's the Chekhov's gun. They mentioned him running fish for China Panda, so he had to show up in Act 2. Right? Like, yes, I saw Newman going up in flames coming. Let's throw it back to last week when I asked you if you remembered Pothole.
There's a pothole in the street. George loses his keys in the pothole.
So?
I think I nailed it. I did point out, there's like one iconic scene when George like motions to the pothole that gets referenced quite often in how the high definition and Netflix edit of...
Oh, that's because you don't see the pothole.
You don't see the pothole, but in like the 4x3 TV broadcast one, you do when he's like...
Yeah.
There was another point where he drops his keys on the diner table and Jerry says like, oh, what's that? And then he picks it up and you can see... But like you couldn't... It was out of frame before that.
I was going to ask you if the bad 4K edit was during and after the kiss, or where the first time Jerry won't kiss Jenna.
Oh.
So the close up on her lips, but then it's like really blurry close up on Jerry's face.
Oh.
I didn't actually notice the other times, but it was weird that George was gesturing to nothing.
It really quickly like switches to like a shot of just the pothole, so it does make sense if you didn't know.
Sure. I think I remember you telling me about that pothole specifically, or I've seen... Yeah.
This is like the number one example when people reference the bad aspect ratio.
I'm going to read the synopsis now.
Yeah, sure.
George loses his keys in a pothole. And then I laughed when I read this line. Jerry drops his girlfriend's toothbrush in a toilet. See, I'm laughing now. Elaine gets food delivered to a closet. Kramer adopts a highway. And when I read Kramer adopts a highway, I just went, ugh. They're just... So, at the very end, I wrote, nobody knows how to write an ending in season 8.
Things do kind of just end abruptly.
Well...
Freeze frame.
The freeze frame scream, I don't like. But this is like... everything ties together, but I don't like it. Right? It's too much. It's too much of a stretch for Elaine to actually haul the garbage. Where's Boss Elaine? Why doesn't she just say, screw it, I'm giving up the closet and I'm going to go to China Panda and eat the fish alone?
Well, Katy, I will quote, it's better than eating it alone in the restaurant like some kind of loser.
Well, Jerry came to the closet to eat the fish. Why don't they go to the restaurant together?
Sure.
All right. Who are the guest stars?
It's probably because Elaine had so much work to do around the apartment building. So this episode featured Kristen Davis, who played Jenna. She was from a TV show called Sex and the City.
What's her name on that show?
Charlotte?
I'm not sure either because I didn't watch it.
She was also in a TV show, something called And Just Like That. And she was also in a TV show called Bad Teacher. You hear about this teacher out in West Ottawa?
Is this a joke?
No, she was banging a couple of her students.
Bad teacher.
Bad teacher.
No, I didn't hear, but it's terrible.
We had Jack McGee playing Ralph.
Who's Ralph?
The construction guy.
Oh.
He was in Moneyball, Basic Instinct, and Gangster Squad. Soraya Carroll played Mrs. Allister. She was in Original Gangstas, Terrorgram, and Philly.
Was she the building superintendent?
She was like the building resident woman who complained to Elaine.
Okay.
And then George Chung, uncredited, I don't know. He didn't have a role. His role wasn't named, but he was the...
he didn't get a name? Ralph got a name and he didn't get a name?
He was in Rush Hour, Starsky and Hutch, and Austin Power, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Was he the delivery guy or the restaurant guy?
He was the restaurant phone guy.
Who was the delivery guy?
I didn't bother looking him up. I already had 4 guest stars in this. Like, I was actually thinking...
Delivery guy had more of an impact than Ralph.
Maybe.
Ralph.
I recognized Ralph. I didn't recognize Delivery Guy.
He's no Ping.
He is no Ping. Why couldn't this be Ping?
Because he knows where everyone lives, I guess.
Fine.
And he already delivers to Jerry's, so that he could just deliver the fish to Jerry's.
He was involved in a lawsuit.
Have you had flounder?
I'm sure I've had flounder.
I don't know if I had. Is it good? I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but like, what's so good about this flounder? I'm picturing a fried whole fish. What are you picturing?
I'm picturing like
where you have to like fillet off the.
I'm picturing like pieces of fish in a like gloopy sauce.
Oh no! For me, it's crispy. I'm picturing crispy.
Maybe fried and then put in a gloopy sauce. Little heterogeneity of textures.
It's the gummy nerds of the fish world.
Close Talkers, brought to you by Gummy Nerds.
So I think the first time in a long time, the opening scene is part of the show.
Yeah, no cold open.
No. And I laughed real hard when Jerry reached in fast to get the toothbrush.
Yeah. I didn't write the whole line down, but it was like, you probably, George says, well, you got it out of there.
You had to do it fast. He did.
You knocked the germs that it hit got knocked out, and the other ones didn't realize what to do before you had it out of there.
So does he mean like it didn't sit there for long, or you physically, your hand had to go in fast, or both?
I think like it didn't take a lot of time for it to be in the toilet.
Yeah. But it's
the 5-second rule. Like I don't think the amount of germs that are on something between the second it hits the ground or falls in the toilet versus it being in there for 30 seconds makes a wild difference.
But it's a brush, and it hit the seat.
Oh, I mean, this thing is contaminated. Don't get me wrong. You should not put. Close talkers.
No,
if
but
you take anything away from this podcast, from this one episode,
don't you put it in your mouth.
Don't put a toothbrush that has fallen into the toilet into your mouth or any other orifice.
He threw me. She comes back so quickly and sticks it right in her mouth.
Yeah.
So I know Jerry's a germaphobe. I know they should just throw out that toothbrush. But even if he rinsed it in the sink for a second, I feel like that would have knocked the rest of those germs off. Not that I would want to put a toilet toothbrush in my mouth, but he didn't even get a chance to rinse it. And he had toilet hand. Or was he washing his hands?
He was washing his hands. He picks it up and he puts it on a shelf that's above the toilet. And he washes his hands.
His priority are his hands.
So I did have a little bit of a question. You said Jerry's a germaphobe. I think it's established now and post watching all of Seinfeld that Jerry is a germaphobe. Up until this point, has there been any really big germophobia?
No, not that I can think of, but Elaine does say you had a tendency, and it's veering into disorder territory.
The only other time I can think about it is a scene where he walks into the apartment and he takes off his belt and he says went to the urinal and undid my buckle and it hit the side of the urinal. So that's the end of that. Which I think these are reasonable precautions to take against germs.
If your metal belt buckle hits porcelain, you're going to throw it away?
I probably wouldn't throw it away, but I do think it would be contaminated and I would do something about it.
You would put it on the floor and it would stay there for 6 months.
I would probably, as you just said, rinse it underwater and that would take care of the germs. What are you, a homeopath? Water can solve all our problems.
It is the cause of and solution to all of our problems.
Solution to, yes.
What's the last thing you dropped in the toilet?
That's a good question.
I've definitely dropped my phone in the toilet.
Really?
Yes. There was nothing in the toilet except water.
Still.
So I dropped it in there. It's already wet, so I washed it and then put it in rice to dry out.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I've never dropped my phone in the toilet.
What have you dropped in the toilet?
I remember as a child, there was a toy from McDonald's to promote Super Mario Brothers 3 coming out. And it was a little plastic Mario that had a suction cup on a spring and you would push it down and he would stick down and then it would pop up. And I was playing with my friend in the bathroom for some reason. And we pushed it down on the counter. I guess because the counter was in there maybe. And it popped up and landed in the toilet. So
did you snatch it out real fast?
We called my parents and I think my dad took it out and then they boiled it to get rid of the germs. And
then what did they do with that pot that had toilet germs on it?
I don't know. I guess just wash that with soap and water. I don't know how that logic works, but I don't think they needed to autoclave the McDonald's Happy Meal toy.
I once found my roommate's tongue ring in the toilet. She had obviously swallowed it, and it went through.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Clean as a whistle.
Not really.
Yikes.
So George asks if Jerry's girlfriend is finicky, prissy, fastidious. Is this George saying that Jerry is these things?
Well, doesn't Jerry say she's a little bit like me?
Yeah.
And so he says those things. Yeah. So yes.
He says, I'll take fastidious. We do know that Jerry is fastidious. That's a pretty general theme.
Sure.
How we can stand Kramer as a neighbor, I don't know.
That's a good question. So Elaine tries to order this fish,
Mm-hmm.
and she's outside the delivery boundary. Was this a real thing? Did this really exist?
There's delivery boundaries today.
Hmm.
The pizza I like stopped being offered at the location near us, and I couldn't order delivery from the other location because we're out of their delivery boundary.
Maybe I'm not a jerk and I don't order food from a million miles away.
I don't usually, but they have the veggie korma out in the West End. I have to go get it like a loser.
I don't think that pizza's worth driving for.
You don't like pizza.
I'm not a big pizza fan.
The other day, I had a slice of pizza for lunch and myself, like a loser, and it was so good.
I mean, do you want to talk about, like, do people care about going to restaurants by themselves?
I don't think they do anymore. I listened to a whole thing on CBC about going to restaurants by yourself. I think I was waiting for you and didn't have my phone or whatever. And I just had the radio on. And it was a long-form journalism piece about eating alone. And all these old people. And it was a call-in show. So the calls were really boring. And this old woman called in and talked about how she couldn't bear to be seen eating alone and blah, blah, blah. So I think there was a stigma about it. And now everyone has a phone, so nobody cares about anybody else.
Yeah.
Did you often go to restaurants by yourself? Or do you currently?
I think, like, I never really had a problem with it. Like, when I was in my early 20s, I would often, like, go to the bar and bring a book and eat food and get a beer. Or also maybe, like, when I was backpacking around because I was, like, from necessity.
Sure. That's different, though. I mean, like, you're in your home where there's presumably food and beer, and you go out to get food and beer by yourself somewhere else.
Yeah.
See, when I only lived... Now, in university, I lived close to stuff, but I was thinking, like, in Toronto, I didn't live alone downtown.
Right.
I only lived with you.
Mm-hmm.
So there was nowhere to go.
So I ruined the experience.
Absolutely.
There was nowhere to go.
I was saying there's nowhere to go in the suburbs that you just go to by yourself and sit, and it's like, well, if I'm already in the car, I'm just going to go to the beer store and pizza, and then I can have lots of beers and pizza for the same amount in front of the TV.
Sure. Now we have little TVs in our pockets.
I thought you were going to say now we have a little person, so we never eat alone.
Also.
I laughed when George said, all my keys say do not duplicate.
It was pretty fun. I did like when George was recounting his day and he was like, I got up, I was supposed to go to work, I came here.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the morning. I felt like some cake, but it was first thing in the morning. For a muffin. Sat on the bench for a while, 20 minutes an hour.
The broad jump. Broad jump over the pothole on 81st. I remember hearing a jingle. I was trying to stick the landing.
A couple of good lines were when Jerry goes shopping and buys all the dental hygiene stuff. And he gives Jenna an electric toothbrush. She says, I feel like I'm holding a blender.
And she turns it off and he says, oh, it turns off automatically. She says it does? And he kind of mumbles, the batteries run out.
The engine is made by McDonnell Douglas. I am not a fan of electric toothbrushes at all. They rattle my face, makes my nose itch. Don't like them.
Oh, they're fantastic. Keep your teeth clean. Tell you if you're brushing too hard.
How do you gotta brush hard. That's how you get the stuff out.
My former boss had to have a gum graft because he brushed too hard. He was a serial brusher. He was one of those people that
ew. Did he brush his teeth at work?
Brushes their teeth at work.
Oh, gross.
And then he was like, brushing too much, brushing too hard. Have to have a gum graft. You can't win.
You can't win.
I think dentistry is a little bit of a scam.
You know what? I am now afraid of going to the dentist. I never really loved it, but I was never nervous about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't had new fillings in 20 years. But one of my fillings fell out, and so I needed to replace it. And our dentist doesn't have laughing gas.
Mm-hmm.
So my choices were get the needle freezing or nothing. So I chose nothing, and they didn't. Because I don't want a needle in my face either.
But it makes you numb.
But the needle hurts.
Grow up.
Excuse me. I had a filling with no numbing, so I did grow up. But it was nerve-wracking. It was stressful.
Would you rather have a filling done with no help at all, or a tiny little pinprick, and then everything feels like nothing?
I'm going to make you feel like nothing.
You can cut this out. I feel like I was trying to like work this into like a bit about our dentist. Is like an older, I don't know, Iranian woman, and you know. Wait,
you see her? I see the other one.
It depends on like. Sometimes I book and they're like, "Oh, you can't see Dr. You have to see Dr. Low," and I'm like, because I'm going to come in. The important person is going to clean my teeth.
Yeah. Someone's going to go,
and then somebody's going to go like, "Yep, okay, here we go. Sure, see you later." But you know, they're always like, "Oh, you got to floss more. You got to," you know. And I don't floss regularly, but then I'm like, "Oh, I got a dentist appointment coming up," and I floss for like, you know, the 2 weeks beforehand. Because I'm worried I'm going to upset Tooth Mommy.
Well, another reason I'm getting to be afraid of the dentist is that I always go with our kid. I book her appointment with mine. And at the beginning, it was like, oh, yay, teeth. You know, they kind of go like, and that's it. But now there's stuff happening. And so I'm like, oh, what's the stuff going to be this time? Like, it's been orthodontist visits for the last couple of years. And then they're like, well, you got to put this stuff on to prevent cavities, this like silver stuff. And you have to come back and do that. And I'm wondering if that's a scam. Yep. I feel like I'm on a used car lot every time I go.
Remember when we first started dating and I hadn't seen a dentist in like 7 years?
Yeah.
And then I went in and they were like, oh yeah, you don't have any cavities. And I don't take great care of my teeth.
You use an electric toothbrush?
I didn't then.
You know what? I didn't get cavities until I went to university. And I think it's because I didn't drink a lot of tap water. And so I wasn't getting the fluoride. But I never had any till I moved out. And then I haven't had any since. Maybe it was like eating and drinking and then going right to bed without brushing my teeth because I was drunk.
Maybe.
What are we talking about?
Well, I was going to bring up the baking soda toothpaste that Jenna brings up. And I think she doesn't anymore, but my sister growing up didn't use toothpaste. She would dip her toothbrush into a tiny little pile of baking soda and brush her teeth with that.
Blech. Elaine criticizes Jerry and says, oh, now you're finding fault at a subatomic level.
This bothered me because it's not subatomic, it's microscopic.
Oh, okay.
And I think that line still works. You're finding fault at a microscopic level.
Yeah.
Like,
lazy writing.
What I mean, I'm expected to believe that these germs that are affecting Jenna operate on a subatomic level, huh?
Remember yesterday when you put on new glasses and our kid said, "You're a nerd."
She didn't say you're a nerd. She just said nerd.
And I really liked Jenna's switcheroo of locking Jerry out and saying she put something of his in the toilet.
This is perfect.
Yeah,
the perfect
perfect revenge.
Perfect revenge. I often think of when you want to like get back at someone or insult someone, you don't do what you think would be terrible. You do what they should think would be terrible. And so this like unknowing that like basically everything in his apartment is now covered in toilet water is the worst thing that could happen to Jerry.
So Jerry goes right into his apartment. Wouldn't he be able to tell if something was wet? At least for a little while?
Sure.
The only other thing I really wrote down was the wide lanes.
Mm-hmm.
I know I didn't write anything about Kramer, but when he first widened the lanes, I wrote this down, and then later Elaine does like side to side. She's like, ooh, wide lanes. And I don't think it's like this anymore, but on the Gardner, the lanes used to be really wide once you passed Jameson going eastbound in Toronto. And I was driving with my friend downtown. She was driving, and there was no traffic. So, this was a long time ago. And she just went, wide lanes, and like swerved side to side. I mean, there were some cars.
Yesterday, the city came and removed all of the snow piles that were on the perimeter, the curbs of our street. Mm-hmm. And you did the exact same thing after they had removed it all.
We were down to less than one driving lane. So yeah, I went, woo!
In the transportation engineering course that I took, they talked about how you can use lane width as a traffic calming measure. And the more narrow you make it, a more narrow lane causes cars to slow down. Mm-hmm. And I remember somebody asked what's the widest that you can make it? And it was if you make it wide enough for 2 cars, people will just use it as 2 lanes.
Even though there's only one?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's our intersection before they changed it. I'd come to a complete stop at the stop sign, and someone would sidle up beside me
in the
to turn.
Parking space place. Yeah.
Yeah. So dangerous. Well, I mean, that explains why people drive so fast down our street in good weather, because it's very wide.
Yeah.
The last thing I wrote was, I don't remember the tune now, but Newman just going, hoo, 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 when he's spurred up and he's walking past Kramer's car. Did you hear him say that?
He made some ululation or something. So we didn't talk about the Kramer storyline very much. Right, a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. So this was filmed on a studio parking loop or studio driving loop or whatever. And they just had extras driving the cars. And Michael Richards wasn't supposed to run into the street to pick up that can. He just improvised it.
But they filmed the can.
They filmed the can. They were just supposed to film the can and have him sitting on the side, looking at it.
Oh.
And so that car, coming to a complete stop and him running back and everything was all improvised.
So was that his feat? Because
yes, that is Michael Richards.
Because I said, did they bring his running double in for this? Because it was very clownish and goofy, but I guess that's normal.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think in the final scene when Newman is walking away, you can tell he's painted the wrong lanes, because there's one lane that is normal sized and then a wide lane. And then the George pothole thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you just isolate that story, George, hey, I got a new keychain. I have lost my keys. Yeah. I remember where my keys are.
I got them out.
I talk to these guys who will give me the equipment and I get them out.
Mm-hmm.
And he hits a pipe. I don't think hitting a pipe like that would cause the toilet to explode.
The toilet rumbles a fair bit before, but as How To taught us, New York plumbing is very weird. So maybe if you burst a pipe in the street, your toilet will explode.
So typically older cities have a combined sewer system, which means that both the rainwater and sewage is
in one pipe.
Is taken away by one pipe, right? And so these are usually very large, non-pressurized pipes.
With a little dip for the sewage to run along the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Like a pressurized pipe would be the pipe that is serving the water to the toilet.
Well,
which wouldn't come out of the bottom of it, and it wouldn't be dirty.
But it could be, but Jerry would still think it's dirty because toilet water is on Jenna. It doesn't matter where it came from. She got toilet water on her. Even though you can drink out of the back of a toilet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all rusty looking in there. I wouldn't want to.
It's kind of gross.
So there's something that I've been meaning to look up, and I finally did. The picture on Jerry's fridge, the nice black and white photo with sunlight streaming in, I guessed right that it's Grand Central Station. It's a photo called Grand Central Terminal by Hal Morey. It was from 1930. Or it's by John Collier in 1941, or 1926, or 1929, or 1934.
Okay.
It's basically,
that guy just took a bunch of pictures of...
No, basically they don't know who took it, and it's been attributed to half a dozen people, but it is Grand Central. And I wondered if you could take another, like, if you could recreate it or do it at Union Station, but I think it looks so pretty because you could smoke inside. And you can't do that anymore.
Get that nice haze.
So last week we talked about, you saw an ad that somebody was willing to trade sex for a car battery.
Oh, yeah.
Car batteries are like $180 at Canadian Tire.
Okay, cool.
So, you know.
How much, like, you could probably acquire a functional used car battery for $20.
I'm not really in the market for used car batteries, so I don't know. I looked up a new one.
No. Are you in the market for?
This year, daylight savings, March 9th. We didn't know when it was.
It's coming up.
It's coming up. I mean, it always does.
Until we stop it.
Yeah. And we talked about Tavern on the Green and how we were disappointed that the pinstripe ball was in such a dank looking place. I know it's a set, but Tavern on the Green is a bigger, brighter place. It's got like huge glass windows and such and such.
I thought you were going to say we were wrong. It is a dingy place.
Well, it used to be a sheepfold. And the trunk release became a standard in 2001.
Oh, that I just grabbed my phone because I was like, oh, I looked something up. I read a what year was it? It wasn't the same year as Jerry's car. It was later for a Saab sedan. And I read all of the safety features, all of the trunk features, and it did not have any mention of a trunk release.
Was this inspired by me reading our car's manual because I was waiting to pick you up and I didn't have my cell phone and I had nothing to do?
No, I read it like the day after the episode.
Next is The English Patient. What's it about?
Elaine sees the English patient.
Okay. I'm glad we do this segment.
And she doesn't like it?
So, Derek, did you know that this is our 150th episode?
I did, because this is the 150th episode of Seinfeld. But did we have not more episodes?
They've done doubles and stuff, and we've done bonuses, and so we match.
It's like lined up. Yeah, this is the 150th episode of
It's
Seinfeld.
almost like I did it on purpose.
Oh. There we go.
I got you something.
You got me something?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, we have our Close Talkers 50 whiskey and our Close Talkers 100 whiskey.
Oh.
So I got you.
Is this a 150-year-old wine?
No.
It's a vineyard that's celebrating its 150th anniversary?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's the only thing at the liquor store that has 150 on it.
How hard was that to find?
Very. I hope it's good wine.
It's a blend.
Oh, well, goodbye.
Merlot. Believe it or not, this is our podcast. Please subscribe at the end. If you subscribed, we would be happy. Please subscribe to us. Believe it or not, it's our podcast.
Is that a Seinfeld reference?